Welcome to part 3 in this series. And this is where we start to look at the self-esteem and the soul-esteem archetypes. The basis of these is done on the 4 survival archetypes of Caroline Myss, which is the child, the victim, the saboteur, and the prostitute. And then the higher aspects of these archetypes, which is the archetypes that can help pull you out of those archetypes. And these were introduced by Jim Curtin, who just had a very brief teaching upon this in one of the workshops that Caroline did, and it forever changed my life because I started to see how you really looked at the parts of us that are tied in with our throat, third eye, crown activation, stepping into more of who we are and who we want to be is really tied in with that soul esteem. And then the self-esteem is really tied into the things that keep us stuck in our 3D aspects, in our lower 3 chakras, right? Now, I've just got these 8 listed here for you to see, but how I class the self-esteem and the soul-esteem is the self-esteems are those things that keep us, trapped in our shadow aspects and in the lower 3 chakras. So I would have in there as well the shadow judge, the perfectionist, the procrastinator, the shapeshifter, the addict. The ones that, and there's more than that, but those are the one, like, that's just the ones that popped into my head, like you struggle through them, you have to heal them, you have to work with them in order to get them into their light aspects because they're keeping you trapped in those lower 3 chakras. Now, your soul esteems, what are some of the archetypes that are trying to come through, but you're bogging up your energy field with all of these other ones? So let's think of the shaman, the priestess, the crone, the archetypes, the teacher, the guide, the healer, the entrepreneur. I mean, that's just to name a few of them that are wanting to come through. And your passion and purpose in this life is they're in there, they're begging to come down into your energy field. And you keep getting these repetitive messages of like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And you feel this compulsion and it doesn't go away. Once a month, once a week, once a day, you're like, I should be doing this. You get this insight, you get this flash of knowing, and you ignore it because something in these self-esteems is keeping you bold. So we're going to actually go through these 4 relationships so that you can have a deeper understanding. So the child archetype, as Caroline teaches, they're tied in multiple different ways with not your inner child, it's an actual child archetype. Your inner child is, to me, and this is my personal opinion, is your little inner version of yourself that sometimes has had trauma things done to them, or you don't listen to yourself. You never got heard, you never got seen, you never got validated, and sometimes there's a lot of inner child trauma. Caroline's child archetypes, there is 6 that I teach, although she lists 8 of them. But I have never met a nature child and I have never met a divine child. So I don't teach what I don't know. So the other 6 archetypes are the wounded child, the magical child, the adult child, the needy, petulant child, the orphan child, and the what's the one that's always joyful and happy? Oh, I've just had a brain fart. Hold on. The eternal child. I just had a total moment there. So the 6 child archetypes, they each have different characteristics to them. And the child archetype is intrinsically linked in with how do we feel hurt and offended by others? How do we ignore our needs and things for others and then get really upset about it? And it's like really how we deal with a disappointment and an offense. There is patterns to it. And it's fascinating because it's, you know, if you'd have told me that I could spend some time talking to somebody, work out which child archetype pattern they have, and then help them with communication, I would have been bamboozled, a decade ago. But this is a huge part of what I do, and it's such a profound relationship with communication. So the sovereign archetype is how you respond, whereas in the child archetype is how you react. So what I mean by that is, say somebody offends you. They say something that's really offensive. Your child will go and it'll react in how it reacts. So an orphan child is going to fear rejection and abandonment. A magical child is want to escape this reality and confrontation. An adult child might get feisty and they get really offended and say the wrong thing. Wounded child would be, oh, of course they've said this, this always happens to me. I'm always going to happen. This is my lot in life. A needy petulant might get so offended that they're just wanting to be generous and do the right thing, but they're getting punished for it yet again. And then they decide to just cancel everything and I'm not going to have anything to do with this. And off they go. The eternal child would be like, where's my fun? I can't handle this. This is just awful. And like they go into like all this angst because they don't want to do this, and then they're worrying about what the other person's feeling. Like you have very specific ways of reacting, and the sovereign helps you to sit in that throne of power that this is who I am. This is how I want to respond. This is the outcome that I want. This is who I want to be. This is who I want to be perceived. This is the type of person that I want to be, and this is how I'm going to react from that. So the sovereign pauses and sees and thinks and looks at the bigger picture. The child is like, there you. Now, if you can really look at these two aspects, your every relationship in your life will just absolutely transform, because you slowly learn not to get offended. You slowly learn, hang on, this other person has their own child archetype and it's not the same one as mine. And they might not even be, understanding of like, I'm totally getting offended by this. And you have a greater empathy. It's like a sovereign empathy because you're seeing the bigger and feeling the bigger picture. It's absolutely profound. So this work with understanding your child is a deep journey into your past and to be looking at those patterns so that you can stop reacting without thought. And And the sovereign instead is a deep journey into, well, who do I want to be as a person? What's my actual integrity? What am I in my empowered state? How can I express that? Now, there's a fabulous thing that happens energetically with communication that's done in a sovereign way. Because you can have these incredible conversations where you don't activate each other's child. And you can get to the core of everything. And it's done with a sense of detachment. The sovereign is very much detached because it's looking at the bigger picture. It's seeing the good and the bad. It's making decisions, the right or the wrong. You look at a petty king or a petty queen, they're selfish. It's all about me. It's, I'm going to abuse all of my court that I'm supposed to be looking out of. I'm going to do all that, and I'm only going to make decisions based upon myself. But the sovereign queen or the sovereign king might sit there, and they're a good king and a good queen, and they make really sovereign decisions for the betterment of everyone. And quite often the sovereign is like knowing what to say and when to say it as well. And I don't always have to be right. I know myself, hang on, I know that I'm right in this. I'm not going to continue to argue. This person's trapped in their child archetype. I'm just going to let this go. Because that's the queen or the king sitting on their throne, just letting things go for the betterment of the court. Let's stop a fight and change the subject, and off we go. Sometimes you might be in your sovereign and you're just like, this person doesn't have the capacity to have the conversation that I want to, and I'm not going to try and cram my belief system down their throat. They're not ready for it. The sovereign might say, you know what, I really want to have a talk about something really sensitive with this person. And the best way to do that, I think, is just to ask a series of questions to get them thinking so that they come to the decision themselves instead of me telling them what to do. Your child archetype's not going to do any of that. The child archetype is going to go, you did this to me and you know that's just wrong. I want to be right. I want to do this. Now, it's really important to state, as Caroline Myss, my hero, these are the 4 survival archetypes: the child, the victim, the saboteur, the prostitute. They're there for a reason. They're there for your survival. It's got that real survival mentality to it. But when you are on your journey of ascension and growth and alchemizing all of your wounds and healing, there comes a point where you're like, I know that my psyche is trying to protect me, but I don't need protection. I'm in my sovereign right now, and I'm making a sovereign decision to push my boundaries. I'm making a sovereign decision to heal this, to let this go. And there can be some doozies in your past, some real traumas, some things that are learned patterns, some behaviors of this and that, and you've got like so many triggers around certain things. And it's your sovereign that goes, okay, it's time that we work upon this trigger. And we're going to do this in a sovereign manner instead of just reacting. So remember the catchphrase. You are allowed to respond instead of react. Your sovereign responds, your child reacts. So let's go to the next video. We're going to talk about the relationship between the victim and the warrior.